NTA International News.
President Jonathan submits names of 8 ministerial nominees to Nigeria's Senate for consideration. Nigerian government to disburse over 200 billion naira to entrepreneurs nationwide. Airline operators not abiding by regulations of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority to face sanctions. Hello there, it's good to have you join us on NTA International News. I'm Sarah Sander. The federal government initiative of funding small and medium-scale enterprises is set for the disbursement of 220 billion naira to entrepreneurs in the country. Vice President Mohammed Namadi Sambo, who chaired SMSC board meeting, says 60% of the fund will be deployed for women empowerment. We'll bring you details of that report in our subsequent bulletins. Meanwhile, President Goodluck Jonathan has submitted the names of 8 ministerial nominees for consideration by the Senate to fill existing vacancies in the Federal Executive Council. Senate President David Mark, who announced the presidential request, named former Minister of State for Defense Musliu Banikoro from Lagos State and Senators Patricia Akwashiki from Nasarawa State, as well as Joel Danlami from Taraba State as some of the nominees. Others include Colonel Augustine Akobundu, Abia State, Fidelis Nwankwo Ebonyi, Kenneth Kobani from Rivers, Hawa Lawan from Jigawa State, and Professor Nicholas Akise Ada from Benue State. The President has also nominated Ibrahim Abba and Ambassador Toye Olofintui for appointment as Grand Qadi Sharia Court of Appeal of the FCT and Member Federal Civil Service Commission, respectively. Meanwhile, the Senate has invited INEC Chairman Professor Tahiru Jega to appear before it on Wednesday at plenary to explain circumstances surrounding the postponement of elections, among other issues relating to the electoral process. The Senate has formally assured Nigerians that any call for an interim national government in the country, whether imagined or real, is an exercise in futility. Senate President David Mark, who stated this on resumption of plenary, maintains that the National Assembly will not do anything to sabotage the nation's democratic process. National Assembly correspondent Adamu Sambo has details.
Openly come out to associate with it the issue of interim national government, though alien to the 1999 Constitution, is of recent getting prominence in the nation's national discourse. The Senate President, who described the issue as strange and alarming, restated the commitment of the Senate towards protecting Nigeria's constitutional provisions.
These are not ordinary times in our nation. We owe it a duty to our countrymen and women to give INEC all the support it needs to conduct a free, fair, transparent, and credible election. It is important to note that on the 29th of May 2015, a democratic government elected through a free, fair, transparent, and credible election will be sworn in.
Senator Mark called on the lawmakers and indeed the political class to refrain from acts or statements that will aggravate the already charged atmosphere across the country. Apart from Constitution, a 7-man conference committee on the 2010 Electoral Act Amendment Bill, the Senate also, through a point of order raised by the Senate leader Victor Ndoma Egba, summoned INEC Chairman Professor Tahiru Jega to appear before it on Wednesday. He is expected to explain circumstances surrounding the postponement of elections, workability of card readers, and other issues relating to the electoral process.
If at that briefing, Jega now tells us that his problem is on the security side, then we can now ask the security people to come.
Meanwhile, an executive bill seeking to make comprehensive provisions for the confiscation, forfeiture, and management of properties derived from unlawful activities scaled second reading in the Senate. It is part of the action plan of government to prosecute criminal activities as well as facilitate the repatriation of stolen funds from abroad.
There is no gainsaying that so much money has already been lost to corruption, and the country has not been too successful in recovering proceeds of these crimes. This bill will reverse the trend
The Nigerian person undermines every law in the books. And that is the case with the pursuit of corruption.
This goes to show that the government is serious about this issue. This is an additional effort to give more biting teeth to the fight against corruption.
We know those who have stolen our money, those who have impoverished our people. This bill will expose them.
This bill will also help to stabilize the Nigerian currency.
Also passed for second reading is a bill seeking the establishment of Chartered Institute of Management Accountants of Nigeria to promote and foster the practice of arts and science of management accountancy in the country. In Abuja, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And still from the legislature, Speaker Aminu Waziri Tambuwal has expressed confidence that in spite of the limitation of time left to the 7th Assembly, the lawmakers will diligently scrutinize and pass all critical bills before the House. He gave the assurance while welcoming lawmakers back from the recess to facilitate their participation in the 2015 general elections.
I'm confident that we shall pass the Petroleum Industry Bill, PIB, the Constitutional Amendment Bill, and similar such critical bills that are already at report stage. Also of the utmost urgency is the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which has already been passed by the two chambers.
Committee on the review of the 1999 Constitution and Deputy Speaker Emeka Ihedioha laid before the House a report on the resolutions of the State House of Assembly on the amendment to the 1999 Constitution.
Assembly for the alteration of this Constitution shall not be passed in either House of the National Assembly unless the proposal is supported by the votes of not less than 2/3 majority of all the members of that House and approved.
The House had worked in collaboration with the Senate and the 36 states' houses of assembly to further alter the provisions of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Meanwhile, the European Union Election Monitoring Team has expressed optimism in the ability of the Independent National Electoral Commission to straighten out grey areas in the electoral process, given the 6 weeks postponement of the general elections. Leader of the team, Santiago Fisas, stated this during a visit to the National Assembly. Adamu Sambo reports.
The European Union Election Monitoring Mission said although there is never a perfect election, INEC is doing its best towards conducting best possible elections. Consequently, the chief observer of the mission said the postponement of the 2015 elections provides an avenue for INEC to buckle up for the exercise, card readers being put to use for the first time notwithstanding.
We really believe that this 6 weeks delayed time has been made to profit for INEC to solve the majority of problems that could happen.
The Senate President, represented by the Senate leader Victor Ondoma Egba, described internal democracy as the major challenge facing Nigeria's democratic enterprise and asked the European Union for capacity building support.
We'll try to elevate the threshold at every point so that the elections will be more and more acceptable with each subsequent election.
In Abuja, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
The leadership of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has reacted to the decision of former President Olusegun Obasanjo to withdraw his membership from the party. A statement signed by the PDP National Publicity Secretary, Chief Olisa Metu, indicates that the PDP is deeply saddened that Chief Obasanjo, a revered leader of the party, first presidential standard bearer, whom the PDP offered the platform to rule Nigeria for 8 years, could decide to abandon the party at a critical point in time. The party noted that Chief Obasanjo discountenanced all pleas by elders and leaders of the party with regard to his reservations on certain issues. The party observed that many Nigerians are still bewildered as to what manner of provocation could have led a former president to membership card of the party he once led. The party states that no matter the provocation, a statesmanly disposition could have encouraged in stabilizing the system. What the country needs now, the PDP leadership noted, are actions that will engender national unity, tolerance, and peaceful coexistence, irrespective of political, ethnic, and religious persuasions. The party directed party members to remain focused and not to be distracted. In another development, the All Progressives Congress River State governorship campaign rally came to an abrupt halt this Tuesday afternoon when persons believed to be thugs started firing sporadic shots around the venue in Okrika. The campaign, which was earlier shifted to the venue after 3 explosions were reported at the original venue, was fully packed with APC supporters when the incident occurred. It was a smooth atmosphere from the beginning of the rally up to the time when party stalwarts took turns to speak to the crowd. But as soon as it was the turn of the state chairman of the party to take the stage, suddenly gunshots were heard from different directions of the campaign venue, which ushered in some pandemonium in the venue with people looking for cover. You're watching the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja. Another look at our major stories. We earlier informed you that President Goodluck Jonathan has submitted names of 8 ministerial nominees to the Senate for consideration. You also heard that Nigerian government is set to disburse over 200 billion naira to entrepreneurs nationwide. Still to come, airlines operators not abiding by the regulations of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority to face sanctions. Details in a moment.
In 2012, the Nigerian government reduced the amount of subsidy paid on petroleum products and chose to invest its 41% share of the safe subsidy funds into the Subsidy Reinvestment and Empowerment Program, SURE-P. Today, we'll look at the numbers. SURE-P has achieved 50% decrease in maternal mortality rates and 40% decrease in neonatal mortality rates in Nigeria. Over 8,500 skilled workers have been employed for public works. Over 1,000 mass transit buses have been provided for the public, and 40 Priority 1 roads are undergoing maintenance throughout the country. SURE-P has created 185,000 jobs, placed over 20,000 graduates in the Graduate Internship Program, and trained over 1,000 auto technicians at the National Automotive Council. 1,200 health facilities have been supplied with drugs and medical equipment. 520,000 pregnant women have received care, resulting in over 100,000 deliveries in SURE-P MCH facilities. These are just some of the ways SURE-P is making life better for you and I.
SURE-P, delivering service with integrity.
Thanks for staying with us. The Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, has been described as a critical component in the nation's developmental drive. Supervising Minister of Information, Edem Duke, stated this when he met with members of the NTA Management Board.
Absolute confidence and pride in the work that you're doing. We know that in these very difficult times, when media is sensitive, you have carried on with professionalism and decency. You have given a fair hearing to all shades of opinion, and that is the role of a public communicator like the NTA. We must at no point in time allow our individual, interests or opinions to supersede, that of the general public, and of course, to bridge the critical gap, that must be bridged between government and the governed. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be.
In the meantime, Director General NTA Shola Omole has officially taken over as Chairman, Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, BON, The organization, which is the umbrella body for all media organizations in the nation, Adebola Brookslyn Sunday, reports that the transition was smooth and peaceful.
For an organization that has been encouraging issue-based campaign and smooth transition in the country's democratic process, there is no better way to lead by example than the peaceful transition between the former chairman, Abubakar Jijiwa, and the current chairman, Shola Omoni.
I don't want to say we're losing Mr. Dauna Ribadu, DG of Voice of Nigeria, but his contribution to BON over the years just cannot be overemphasized.
I think politicians and other professional groups should learn from this because there will only be one chairman at any time. There will only be one DJ at any time.
Abubakar Jijiwa, who has been involved in how to improve the well-being of media workers, says there is light at the end of the tunnel for media practitioners in Nigeria. Other members of the body expressed happiness and passed their votes of confidence on the current chairman, Shola Omoni, who they say has great leadership qualities.
That a new era of BON is opened, and we're going to see better cooperation and better synergy among broadcasting stations in Nigeria.
I had been a member of BON since its inception in 1988, and I have seen the growth and the progress of BON. The handing over is from an appropriate person to a very appropriate person.
Other issues that came up were the need for constitutional amendments and the need for private media to also take the mantle of leadership of the organization someday. In Abuja, Adebola Brookslyn Sunday, NTA News.
Airlines operators not keeping to regulations of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority will from now on face sanctions, including revocation of flight operations clearance certificate. The Minister of Aviation, Osita Chidoka, disclosed this in Abuja while receiving reports of the Ministerial Committee on Foreign Registered Privately Operated Aircraft Operations in Nigeria. Correspondent Emmanuel Aimiro reports.
Findings of the committee show major gaps in the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority's surveillance and enforcement oversight on the operators, which enables some foreign registered privately owned aircraft to perform unauthorized operations. It further revealed inappropriate placement of foreign registered aircraft category, whether private or non-commercial, by NCAA on Part G of specs of some domestic operators' air certificate.
Most non-commercial flight certificate holders who have FOCC and MCC engage in commercial charters in contravention of Nigerian civil aviation regulations.
Aviation Minister Osita Chidoka warned against violating aviation regulations.
I've also accepted the March 1 date for all foreign registered private category of aircraft that are listed on the OPSPECs Part G of some AOC holders must be removed from that status by NCAA. Consequently, the aircraft operations will remain grounded until NCAA approves an alternative operational status for the aircraft.
The minister added that violation of aviation regulations has serious safety and security implications, which must not be allowed. In Abuja, Emmanuel Ayemiro, NTA News.
In other news, Gambia marks 50th independence anniversary amid accusation of dismal human rights record as Malawi bans child marriage, and Egyptian journalist confident ahead of retrial after he was granted bail. Details of these and more with Phoebe Kabur.
As the Gambia marks its 50th independence anniversary on Wednesday, critics say the milestone is tainted by the dismal human rights record of an increasingly isolated regime. President Yahya Jammeh, an outspoken military officer, former wrestler, has ruled the former British colony with an iron fist since seizing power in a bloodless coup in 1994. The regime of the man is often berated for human rights abuses, enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, torture, and the muzzling of journalists. And in Malawi, the government has passed a law banning child marriage, raising the minimum age to 18, in a country where half of the girls end up as child brides. Women rights campaigners hailed the move as a great day for Malawian girls and said the law would help boost development in one of the world's poorest countries. And in Egypt, Egyptian journalist Baha Mohammed, who was bailed after 411 days in jail, said he is confident ahead of a retrial. Mohammed, a producer for the satellite news channel, and his colleague Mohammed Fahmy, one Egyptian-Canadian national, were freed last week, pending their retrial with hearings set for the 23rd of February. Mohammed said the worldwide campaign for the release of the 3 Al Jazeera journalists had helped them cope with their incarceration. Phoebe Kabruk, NTA News.
There was deep expression of grief as First Lady Dame Patience Jonathan visited the families of the prominent Bayelsa women who died in a motor accident along Port Harcourt-Bayelsa Road on Saturday. State House correspondent Makut Simon Macham reports.
The First Lady Dame Patience Jonathan, overwhelmed with grief, was first at the residence of the Secretary to the Bayelsa State Government, Professor Alison Ogoro, to condole the family over the death of his wife Elizabeth, who was among the victims.
May his always in peace. You people to take hearts. We can't bring her back. We can wisdom God. If we can see God, we could have asked him why. At this time, we need her most. But we give everything to God Almighty.
Responding, Professor Oguru described the loss as a painful and shocking one, but said they have embraced it as the will of God and grateful for the First Lady's visit. The First Lady was also at the residence of the late Honorable Ruby Benjamin, a former commissioner in Bayelsa State, where she was received by her son, Ambrose, and other family members. She consoled them and promised to continue to support the family. At the residence of Consider Amadi, the First Lady expressed sadness at the death of Consider, who she said was very close to her. The husband thanked the First Lady for the visit and said God has continued to strengthen them. Other families visited by the First Lady include those of Mrs. Elizabeth Musakpo, Opolo Matthew, Acha Perekamba, Gimbra Pamoe, Clara Abila. The First Lady urged them to be consoled that the deceased lived fruitful lives and impacted their families and others. She debunked reports that the women were in Port Harcourt for a program.
All of them that came is with one problem or the other. It's because of problem all of them came. And they felt that if they see me, I can solve their problem. Because I am their mother, I am their friend. But I don't know that it will happen like this.
In all the places visited, the wife of the chaplain, Aso Villa Chapel, Martha Owozurumba, offered prayers for the repose of their souls and comforted the families. The First Lady also visited the accident scene along the Bayelsa-Port Harcourt Road before proceeding to the University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital to see the only survivor of the accident receiving treatment at the intensive care unit. From Yenugwa in Bayelsa State, Makut Simon Machan.
In our sports package, Nigeria's basketball team, D Tigers, prepare for Burkina Faso as Golden Eaglets set sights on Guinea at the ongoing CAF Under-17 Championship in Niger. Let's size of our news bulletin at this time. Thanks for staying with us.